scan the facility from the air with me.
Negative. I'm gonna find out what's being planned. I gotta get inside.
Crazy? We have no way of knowing what's in there.
Well, it's true that Adam will probably just be infiltrating the place anyway. Why wouldn't you want scans of it? I mean, will it take a lot of time? Will it announce our location? I mean, what are the negatives here? Why wouldn't you want more intelligence? Didn't Miller ask us to observe and not engage? Why not do that right now, and then you can do your Batman jump and infiltrate anyway? So we land in the snow, hack the door in what looks like a tower of the structure, and the door gets kicked in our face as Victor injects us with Orchid, but we're still breathing but knocked out. Victor's going back to Prague, and apparently Nathaniel Brown communicates with Picus, a news agency from the last game, about a date and a time. We then get face planted into the snow, and we fade to black. We wake up, hold some object in our hand, which I think is a canister that Victor stabbed us with, which is strange since Rucker didn't have anything like this. So it wasn't exactly a straight injection. He stabbed us with this canister, which I'm guessing is now Orchid, which he assumed would kill us. Anyway, we then get the choice of who to contact next, Alex or Miller.
These guys think I'm dead, Alex.
So why aren't you?
Maybe I can take advantage of that. Have a peek around.
While you can't actually explore the place, there's no mission to find anything. You're here to escape. Instead of crawling through cube-shaped air ducts, we jump into cylindrical ones and avoid some electrical traps. We discover everyone's leaving in about 1 hour, and there was a bad guy party in this room. We hit an elevator, contact Chikane, and then he tells us we were dark for hours. We tell him we'll go to him so he can pick us up, and then we call up Alex and cancel the pickup from her. We're literally right next to the guy on a helipad when we make all these calls, and off we go. So the whole point of this trip was to get knocked out and drugged so that we could coincidentally hear a conversation with Victor and his lackeys about him going to Prague, waiting on his shipments to go to the Diwali, and something about Brown giving Picus a date and time. We have now entered the James Bond villain level of plot reveal ridiculousness.
Alex, it's me. We need to meet.
You got a location? Because the streets aren't safe tonight, man.
Can you make it to the limb clinic where we met before?
Yeah, it's not far. I'll meet you there.
Interesting how Miss Stealth Camo all the time has no problem avoiding a complete public martial law lockdown of the city, enough to meet us at the limb clinic like before, but can't infiltrate the VersaLife Bank. Well, I guess if you're just walking in public with camo on, it's technically easier. We walk outside and get a cutscene from the police gunning down a citizen who was running away, and they lament their mistake because they thought it was a Hanser. This is a good scene now, as it shows us this zero tolerance level the police state has here for anyone breaking curfew. It's killing its own citizens, all due to the bias that the police have against the augmentation populace, to the point of even disregarding its check for citizen documentation and going straight to gunning them down in the streets. The oppression enforced by the police is very real, and it is deadly. So instead of giving us the option to actually play the game and get to the limb clinic, the cutscene does it for us. We hand Alex the canister thing that Victor apparently stabbed us with and ask Alex to analyze it, provided of course there's anything left in the thing. Maybe you should also tell Alex, hey, he stabbed me with this thing, but I'm not actually sick. Or, hey, he stabbed me with this thing and I might die a long, painful death later. Or, hey, he stabbed me with this thing, maybe you should get a sample of my blood. I might be immune to it since my body doesn't reject AUGs. I mean, something is needed here, something that explains why Adam isn't dead, why that canister could possibly have any dregs of Orchid left, or some sort of mention of why Orchid even needed a canister to be delivered. It looked like Rucker drank something bad, or why Adam is special in any regard here. We then tell her about Brown, and she tells us Nathaniel Brown's next stop is London, and that we have to go talk to Miller first before anything else. Okay, she still doesn't trust Miller yet, and for good reason. Now, we get to actually play our navigation through the streets here to get to the Interpol offices, and when we do, we're forced into an encounter with Delara.
Listen, I can tell something big is happening, so I don't want to keep you.
And yet you want to talk to us for some reason. And she just opens up about her time during the AUG incident, about how one of her AUG patients she was in session with at the time jumped out the window. Now that's great, that's fine. I guess it's because the city's under curfew lockdown, she felt rather safer underground, and she wants to tell us this story. Great, cool. That makes sense. But hey, we got a main story to get back to. And we find out Manuel was the one who assigned us to TF-29. All the while speculating who could have tipped off Victor about us traveling to Switzerland. Now, instead of us playing the obvious process of elimination between Miller And Chikane, well, Miller, if it's not you and there's only one other suspect left, we simply tell him about the deal going down with Diwali and Victor, and Miller tries to get a warrant. He can't, and just lets us go to the red light district on our own.
We need to move on this now. I'll get a search warrant for that old Diwali-owned theater on ZA DIVI ADLUM STREET.
Wait, why? How do you know someone's there? How do you know we're supposed to go to that place? Who am I actually looking for here? When we get to the red light district, Miller calls us up. He can't get that search warrant or whatever, but also shows us that even when we're in our own city of operation, we're still a one-man infiltration unit. Police are bad and oppressive. Diwali are probably just as lethal. We may encounter some terrorists, and we're up against all of these guys. This is perhaps the lowest point in the story in terms of feeling secure. And how we know where we're going or what we're doing or who we're trying to see, I have no idea.
So if you're thinking of getting in that way,
It's gone a little further than just thinking.
Ah, Adam, you and your dry wit. We sneak in and overhear a conversation between, I guess, the Diwali higher-up and that the Safe Harbor Convention in London is being targeted by Victor. We contact Miller, who tells us to go home. We then call up Alex and tell her about this, and then tell her to come to our apartment. We then hit the subway, and because the subway isn't actually working, it shows us a loading screen of Adam walking down the subway tracks in a loop until the next level loads. This is complete with Adam checking his arm out by raising it. There's this sound effect, this robotic arm sound effect. So Adam's arm apparently always makes this sound whenever he raises it. Okay. We make it back to our apartment.
We got it wrong, Adam. Brown's financial prospects aren't as rosy as we thought. He stands to lose trillions if the Human Restoration Act passes.
So does Brown already have trillions of dollars that he's going to lose? Or will he not make trillions of dollars as a result of this act passing? Which one is it?
That doesn't make any sense. Millions of displaced dogs will flock to Rabia.
And the city can't support them.
Wait, so what? Then the city can't support these people. They'll hit capacity and that's that. The immigrants will go elsewhere. The city will have all these augmented workers being extremely efficient, while those who can't get in don't. You might argue that there could be illegal immigrants. Okay, these illegal immigrants do all the really bad jobs no other augments get to do, and the owners of those jobs get a really good workforce and pay really low wages. And since they're not registered citizens, they wouldn't be on any kind of government welfare or union if such programs actually existed. This is win-win. Additionally, if there is any kind of black market, any restricted products or services will be bought and purchased at a premium, allowing those products to be sold by citizens and illegal immigrants alike. This could be as nefarious as a crime organization, or as simple as, let's say, our Purple Rain Man doctor. This could impact the police system, I guess, but that's dependent on the laws and the police system used to control such illegal behavior. So, without further information here, how is Brown going to lose trillions by having a really, really popular city and allowing industry to buy and sell products and services like real estate, legal or illegal, that lots of people want? And without knowing what new city-states laws would be, this would be the equivalent of taking a bunch of cybernetic Americans and having them create their own city-state. America, one of the most dominating, creative, and productive cultures of the world.
Brown's been selling investors a pumped-up dream. The corporate city-state where like-minded individuals govern themselves while investors reap the profits.
Let's look at real-world examples of a city-state like Hong Kong. They've been doing fantastically due to low regulations and things like low flat taxes. Of course, living there means you work your ass off, but that's part of the culture. It's working for them. And if you give augments this type of environment, you're going to be more efficient than the average worker of today. Thus, you're going to get yourself one supercharged city-state dominating the service and manufacturing industry. So without being given any more information, I'm assuming this Human Restoration Act, or whatever it's called, will cause all these augmented people to leave the UN in some way, flock to Nathaniel Brown's Rabias, and having taken the profits from all that, Brian will start making a whole bunch more.
Kind of goes against the idea of a one-world government.
Yes, I would argue that a city-state is against a one-world government, but so what? Is this what the Illuminati wants? We know Adam's against the Illuminati, so I guess he's assuming that's what the Illuminati wants? I'm not too clear on this.
Yeah, and if it fails, so does Brown, the Santo Group, and anyone else standing in the Illuminati's way.
All right, but why would it fail? Just because there's lots of immigrants? I'm not exactly following this logic. Is it because you're going to have a big slum population, a lot of poor and sick and destitute? So whenever a country who is not controlled by the UN or the EU doesn't want immigrants, they just reject them. Unless there's some sort of oppressive laws or restrictions on how citizens live their lives. I mean, why would augments screw this system up? They're all trying to survive. The citizens and poor would be working hard, the illegals would be working even harder, and the rest would just be rejected. You know, ever heard of something called the Kyoto Protocol? Just because a country is part of the UN doesn't mean they're going to follow it.
So they want to kill a competing dream and get rid of their augmented problem in one fell swoop. I take it Brown's been campaigning against the act?
Without having any more information on what the act actually is, there's no clue whether what Adam said is true or not, and we have to assume that the bombings throughout Prague are somehow tied into this. I mean, they could be, but the narrative isn't really showing us the connection there, aside from, you know, the example of Prague being in a police state where the police are killing its own citizens because of its curfew.
And unlike Rucker, he's got the money and influence to stop it.
Okay, so if Brown has the money and power to stop the act, does that mean his current city-state is working? Where'd he get his money? Wouldn't he want more immigrants then? Is Rabia just a pet project and it hasn't started yet? I don't know what's going on exactly, and I could be wrong, but I'm not sure what the act will do to Rabia or augments in general. And how would an act impact a city-state? Just because there's lots of immigrants? I mean, would every citizen from countries all within the UN flock to one place? Like a small city-state? And what about countries who simply say no to the UN? You know, nothing's stopping a country from saying, no, we won't agree to a resolution. Again, look at the Kyoto Protocol. A country's government has to actually agree to the act. I mean, what is the UN going to do? Use their Security Council and attack that country? That's insane. But again, without knowing what the act is or does, makes all the tension in the scene be up in the air, because Adam and Alex haven't told us what the stakes are in any believable way.
What about the Orchid sample I gave you? Marchenko's smuggling more of it into London. Were you able to analyze it?
Believe it or not, it's not a bioweapon, or at least it's not meant to be one. It's a genome editing drug. It targets the gene linked to AUG rejection and deletes it.
We know that gene theory is pretty dangerous in real-life examples, but why would deleting a gene, if this is what it does, that causes augment rejection kill augments? Wouldn't that help augments? Am I missing something here?
AUG rejection. Must be why I survived. I don't suffer from rejection syndrome.
What? Are you telling me you don't need neuropazine? Shit, man, that makes you...
1 in a billion, I know. The Orchid, Alex. You said it's not meant to be a bioweapon.
Right. The files you and Janus got from the vault, they suggest Reed's team hasn't finished making the Orchid yet. It's supposed to replace the deleted gene with an artificial one that accepts augmentations. But until they do, it's deadly.
Oh, so now it's currently a bioweapon then.
Darknet posted pictures of Rucker's corpse. If Brown and all his elegant fancy potential investors get dosed, and Picus News broadcasts images of them, it's gonna send a message.
Okay, so Orchid will make everyone like Adam, but it's unfinished, so it currently kills people. Okay, and the belief is that the Illuminati are going to somehow use it on Brown and his people, maybe. Or will it? Are they? Is Alex just speculating this, or are they actually going to use Orchid on Brown somewhere in London?
I'd better warn Miller. You can stay here if you want, till the curfew's lifted.
I can take care of myself.
So you can walk through an entire city, but one VersaLife bank is way too hard. Okay, there's stealth camo lady all the time.
But when the task force hits London, keep me in the loop. Not sure what I can do, but...
Well, it's glad to see you admit you're useless. So we tell Miller, and he's all set to get to London with everyone else in TF-29, apparently. This is all hands on deck. All right, good to hear. And then we finally get to Chikane, And Miller's already gone. he's gone with everyone else. And we have to go with Chikane alone. Now, that's an awfully strange waste of resources, but okay. I'm glad we're going ahead with this, but feels awfully convenient.